All right, let's dive in. Today, we're mapping a hidden history, the secret family tree of Western esotericism. It's a wild story of forbidden knowledge, mysterious societies, and spiritual paths that have been flowing just beneath the surface for centuries.
Okay, so first things first, what are we even talking about? Well, for the last 1600 years or so, Western thought has been pretty much dominated by two major forces. You've got established religion, mostly Christianity, and then you have secular science. Western esotericism is, well, it's everything else. It's that third stream, a real grab bag for all the other ways of understanding the world.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Religion asks you for faith. Science demands hard data and evidence. But esotericism, it proposes something totally different. It's all about pursuing hidden knowledge, not through a holy book or a lab, but through your own direct, personal, spiritual experience.
So here's the game plan. We'll start by getting our terms straight, then jump back in time to trace the 5 ancient streams that started this whole thing. After that, we'll see how those ideas made a huge comeback, absolutely exploded in the 19th century, and finally, how they morphed into what we see today. So let's tackle the big question right away. Why all the secrecy? I mean, these traditions spent centuries operating in the shadows, and the words we use to describe them actually give us a pretty big clue.
You know, these words aren't just about sounding mysterious. Esoteric literally means knowledge that's just for an inner circle, and occult just means hidden. And this wasn't for show. For a long, long time, practicing these ideas out in the open could get you persecuted or worse. Secrecy was basically a survival strategy.
Okay, now let's go way back to the roots. Pretty much all of these traditions can trace their lineage to 5 ancient streams of thought. You can think of them as the great-grandparents of this entire esoteric family tree.
So these 5 really set the stage. First, you had Gnosticism, which taught that our physical world is basically a prison we need to escape from. But then you had Neoplatonism, which said, no, the world isn't bad, it's just a shadow of a perfect source called the One. Hermeticism then gave people the tools, things like alchemy and astrology, to actually interact with that spiritual reality. And flowing alongside all this, you had the incredible mystical traditions of Jewish Kabbalah and a growing fascination in the West with ideas from Hinduism and Buddhism.
Now, let's jump forward, way forward, to the 16th and 17th centuries. The absolute power of the church is starting to crack, and all these ancient ideas begin to bubble back up to the surface, finding a brand new home in modern secret societies.
It was really a perfect storm. The Renaissance and the Reformation opened up a space for new ways of thinking. Out of this, Rosicrucianism appeared, based on these mysterious texts about a secret brotherhood with ancient wisdom. And then you have the Freemasons, who went from a simple stonemasons guild to this highly organized secret social club for the elite.
And this is where a really powerful relationship started to form. The Freemasons, with their whole network of lodges, their secret rituals, and all those hierarchical degrees of membership, they basically created the perfect blueprint for how to run a secret society.
And the Rosicrucians? Well, with all their mystical ideas about ancient wisdom, they provided the content to fill that structure. Other esoteric thinkers saw this and realized, hey, we can use that Masonic model as a container for our own secret teachings.
And get this model was so effective that its influence pops up in some really unexpected places. Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, was a Freemason, and historians have pointed out some clear overlaps in early Mormon rituals and symbols. It just goes to show how these esoteric structures branched out.
Okay, hold on, because when we hit the 1800s, this family tree doesn't just grow, it explodes, with new branches, shooting off in all sorts of radically different directions at once.
First up, you get spiritualism. It was basically born from mashing 2 big ideas together. First, Emanuel Swedenborg's belief that spirits of the dead could still influence us. Then, Franz Mesmer's idea of an invisible force connecting everything. You put those 2 together, and bam! You get seances, mediums, and the core belief that you can talk to the dead.
At the exact same time, another movement called New Thought pops up. Its founder, Phineas Quimby, proposed this really powerful idea. And here's the crazy part. This is the direct ancestor of things like the power of positive thinking and the whole idea of manifesting your reality that's so popular today.
Then, Helena Blavatsky came along and tried to synthesize everything. She created this grand system called Theosophy, or God Wisdom. She basically blended Rosicrucianism and Spiritualism, claiming she was in communication with these ancient masters who held the secrets to a lost, universal religion for all humankind.
Now, this is where a branch of the tree takes a really dark turn. Part of Blavatsky's theory involved a concept of root races, and she considered the so-called Aryan race to be the most spiritually evolved. This idea was later picked up by a racist movement called Arya-Safi, which had ties to occult groups that influenced some early Nazi thinkers. It is important to note, however, that the source material says this occult link is often overstated.
All right, as we roll into the 20th century, these traditions keep morphing, evolving into forms that we might find a lot more familiar today.
And you really can't talk about this era without talking about Aleister Crowley. He was, without a doubt, the most influential and controversial esotericist of his time. He took the ceremonial rituals from groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and made them the absolute core of his system, which he called Thelema. The whole goal was to use magic, and he spelled it with a K to separate it from stage magic, to discover and follow your one true divine will.
During this same period, we see the rise of Neopaganism. But, and this is really important, it's not just one thing. On one hand, you have Reconstructionists, who are trying to literally revive ancient faiths, like the worship of Norse or Greek gods. But what's more common is the eclectic path, which is more of a modern mix and match of general pagan ideas. The most popular example of that is definitely Wicca, or modern witchcraft.
And that brings us to the final stage. The New Age movement essentially became this massive umbrella. It scooped up almost every idea we've talked about, from positive thinking to paganism, and then added its own unique spin, like UFO religions, and a huge focus on the dawning Age of Aquarius.
So after tracing this incredible, complicated, and often hidden family tree all the way from ancient philosophy to the modern New Age, we're left with one final question. We've seen how these ideas twist and turn and adapt over centuries. So what do you think? What's the next branch on this tree gonna look like?